Okay, folks, how we doing? Sunday, January 29th, 2017. Rich Van Tassel with you. My apologies for last week. Wasn't able to do any videos. I was ill. We're continuing on with our weekly NBA report today. In the Eastern Conference, Cavaliers 31-14, 3 games above both the Raptors and the Celtics, or 29 and 18. The Cavaliers at 31-14. They're 4-6 in the last 10. Could there be some turmoil? We'll have to see. Of course, LeBron James requesting another playmaker, another backup point guard. That's been the story all season long. It seems like, and at this point, the Cavaliers would still probably win the Eastern Conference, but what's almost certainly going to be the Golden State Warriors out of the Western Conference as of right now, you would have to say they could not beat them. Atlanta rounding out the top four, they're 27-10. All those top four teams are above 500 on the road. 11-9 for the Cavaliers, 13-10 for the Raptors. The Celtics and the Hawks are both 14-10. The Celtics have won 3 straight after losing 3 straight. Certainly coming along. Isaiah Thomas continues to put up big numbers, and of course we'll do a Celtics report later on. The Washington Wizards 26-20. They're 8-2 in the last 10. A team that's really starting to come along. John Wall, 23 points, 10.1 assists, 2.2 steals. So he's a good offensive player and a good defensive player. And, of course, he would be in the MVP conversation, not for Harden and Westbrook, who are basically running away with it. Of course, Isaiah Thomas trying to put his hat in the ring as well. But I don't know if anyone can top Harden and Westbrook at this point. Of course, the Wizards are 7-14 on the road. Indiana 7-16 on the road. They're 24-22. Washington plus 1.4 in their differential. Indiana is minus 1.1. Chicago, some turmoil there as well with Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo. It's not surprising those guys aren't getting along. They're 23-25. Charlotte, losers of 4 straight, 3-7 in the last 10. They're 23-25. They got off to a good start. Let's see if they can right the ship. Milwaukee starting to come back down. They're 2-8 in their last 10, losers of 3 straight. They lost in overtime last night to the Celtics. Detroit, a playoff team from last year, 21-26. But those teams still only 1.5 out of the final spot. New York, 2 games out of the final spot. Are they going to trade Carmelo Anthony? I don't know if anyone's going to bite on that trade. That's something I'll have to go in more detail at a later date. But very confusing with the Knicks. I know Knicks fans are impatient, but this team continues to improve. They're probably going to improve on their win total last year. So, I don't know. I think the Knicks should still stay the course, but I know the fans are impatient, and it doesn't seem like that's what they're going to do. Philadelphia 17-28, 7-3 in the last 10. They are still minus 5.1 in their differential, but that's a team that's clearly finally starting to come along, and that's good to see. I don't like to see teams just be terrible as they were. Orlando 18-30, Miami 18-30, winners of 7 straight. They're 5 out of the last playoff spot. This is a team with experience. They won 48 games last year. But look, it took them 7 straight wins just to get 5 out. I don't know if they're going to be able to push through the rest of the way. Certainly they'll have to continue to keep the pace until the All-Star break and then take it from there. And of course the Nets 9-38 on their way to 65 losses, losers of 5 straight, 1-9 in the last 10. In the Western Conference, as we said, Golden State really starting to click, 40-7. They're running away with the differential, plus a 13.4. They're averaging 118 points. Of course, they just hung 144 on the Clippers last night. We'll do that now. The Clippers were the only team, and I don't even think they have the grit or the moxie or whatever term you want to use to beat the Warriors in the playoffs, but they're the only team personnel-wise that I think has any real shot, and they just got bludgeoned last night. San Antonio 36-10 plus 8.4. Houston 35-15, but they are 4-6 in their last 10. Of course, James Harden continues to put up big numbers. He had a 50-point triple-double, 29.1, 11.6 assists. Clippers 30-18, Utah 30-19. I think Utah's been much more consistent this year. The Clippers have lost 2 straight now. They got run out of the building last night. It just shows that there's not enough consistency with the Clippers. Oklahoma City 28-19. Russell Westbrook over 30 points per game. Still over 10 rebounds, over 10 rebounds at 10.6 and over 10 assists at 10.2. So the triple-double average for a season is certainly there. Memphis 28-21. As we've discussed with the Grizzlies, a good professional team. I like the Grizzlies a lot, but they're not winning a championship with the team they currently have. Denver in the 8th spot at 21-25. Let's see if they can start to grab hold of that last spot. You have a lot of disappointing teams. They've won 3 straight, 7-3 in the last 10. Portland's won 3 straight to get to 21-27. But you look at that team, they were 18-27, obviously, before the 3-game winning streak. Too much talent on that team for them to be struggling. Sacramento 19-28. 2.5 out of that final spot for the playoffs. DeMarcus Cousins, of course, having a big year. Is he good enough to carry a team to the playoffs? Of course, he dropped 35 last night. He is averaging 10.5 rebounds, 28.1 points. I don't know. I'd like to see DeMarcus Cousins take that team to the playoffs, but the Kings just hit or miss this year, and they really have not come along. New Orleans 19-28. Anthony Davis, another guy putting up very good numbers. Of course, it's just all it seems to be, a moot point with the way Harden and Westbrook are playing. But 27.8 points, 12 rebounds, 2.3 blocks. You can't fault Anthony Davis. He needs some help. Minnesota 7-3 in their last 10. They are only minus 0.7 of a point in their differential. This is much more of what I expected from the Timberwolves. They are 3.5 out of that last spot. Talent is there. You have Andrew Wiggins. You have Karl Anthony Towns. Towns putting up 23 points, 11.9 rebounds. Ricky Rubio is putting up decent assist numbers at 8.1 assists, but he is a guy who has not shot well, only 7.9 points. He's your typical, he's like your old school point guard, but his shooting is just not there. But Minnesota, this was a team I was expecting to make the playoffs and be a decent seed, and they just are still not coming around. Dallas Mavericks, 16-30, nothing really to write home about, of course, but I want to give this team credit. They got off to a pretty horrific start. They're showing their professionalism. Lakers, remember when they got off to a good start? Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago. They're 16-34, 2-8 in their last 10, and that team needs help. And the Phoenix Suns, 15-32. Not really even sure what's going on with the Phoenix Suns, but something to keep an eye on is, will they trade some of the players they have? You have, a Brandon Knight. Of course, they got rid of Isaiah Thomas. They're probably regretting that one. There's some decent parts on that team. Eric Bledsoe, 21.4 points. So let's see if they're going to make any moves. There's certainly talent on that team that can be dispersed. Okay, the power rankings, obviously Golden State going to be number 1. Like we said, plus 13.4, 40-7. They're really starting to click. San Antonio will be number 2. Number 3, I'll still give it to the Houston Rockets, even though they're 4-6 in their last 10. Number 4, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And number 5, the Boston Celtics, getting into the top 5 of the power rankings for the first time this season. You look, the Clippers are better than a half of a game. The Utah Jazz are equal record-wise. They are behind in percentage points, of course, but the Celtics had beaten the Utah Jazz. Of course, that win against the Houston Rockets really helps the Celtics, and the Toronto Raptors, the losers of 5 straight, you can't give it to the Raptors. So that rounds out your power rankings. Warriors, Spurs, Rockets, Cavaliers, Celtics. All right, in a little bit, we will do the Celtics report. We're going to get, of course, more into the NBA in depth now that the NFL season is coming to a close. We'll do the Super Bowl next week, of course, but got to keep up with the NBA. Going to start really transitioning from the NFL to the NBA, so be sure to stay tuned for that. We thank you all, and we'll see you in a little bit with the Celtics report. Thank you so much.